I was thinking something the other day that made me incredibly sad. Sad and nostalgic for things I haven't lived or experienced. As I often do, I was thinking about Tolkien and the world he created, the mythology that he brought to life, and how impactful it has been. Suddenly, however, something struck me. This week on Ink and Fantasy, let's see exactly how modernity killed mythology. Since the beginning of humanity, across all of history and uncountable millennia, we have always created stories. Stories were the one thing, the very first thing perhaps, that kept us going. In between of surviving and losing and dying, we would find but a few moments to ponder, to think of our lives and of the world around us. We would try to explain this world in whatever way we could with our limited understanding. Lightning and thunder became Zeus. The waves of the sea and the tremble of the land was, of course, Poseidon. While these are Western-centric examples, similar things can be said for cultures across the globe and across time. Humanity would take both the wondrous and the mundane, and we would create stories to explain them. These, through oral tradition, would pass down to the next generation, and this would continue for thousands of years. Across the centuries, the stories would change or deepen. They would become more complex and interconnected. With writing, they would spread more easily to other people, and gradually entire and distinct mythologies would be created. Thousands of them, alongside unique traditions, rituals, and languages. The decline of paganism in Europe did not stop this innate need for storytelling. Characters and themes simply changed, but folk and fairy stories continued to flourish. The people of the Middle Ages would pass on their tales of fairies, spirits and demons, of princes and towers, of goblins and mystical beasts. We inherited all of this in the modern age, and we used everything that came before for the creation of an entire genre of writing. This genre, of course, was fantasy. The likes of J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, or even more modern examples with Brandon Sanderson, all created their own worlds and, effectively, their own mythologies. Mythopoeia was the word that Tolkien liked to use, and it was literally the creation of myths. But what's the difference between a myth and a modern fantasy story? A commercialized story that can almost always be traced to its author, and which can be put into neat boxes as to its subgenre and niche. In my view, a fundamental aspect of mythology is its source in the unknown. Under some interpretations, a mythology can be a parable, understood to be fictional, or it can be an entire religious legend from antiquity, but fundamentally, its source was not one person. It was thousands upon thousands sharing it while dining together, or dancing, or sitting around the fire. This is an aspect that can no longer hold true. Even Tolkien's mythology, as grand as it is, will always be the book of a single man. Inspired by those that came before, of course, but an authentic mythology cannot have an author. The only authors of an authentic folk story must be those that recorded them and transcended them from oral tradition. In truth, there are some creative attempts to navigate this obstacle with the rising popularity of anonymous projects throughout the years. But these have another problem, if it can truly be called a problem. You see, for better or for worse, the technological and scientific advancement that humanity has experienced in the last century or so has given rise to disbelief. We are, generally speaking, less superstitious, less likely to believe in the legendary tales of the past that our ancestors certainly would have. I know that mythology has a strong religious connotation, but this applies more generally to folk stories. Many of our ancestors genuinely believed in things we largely do not today, whether it be monsters, lake spirits, or whatever else. And so, this superstition, this predisposition to believe in the supernatural, served as a stepping stone for the creation of the stories that we enjoy today. Without it, they would not have survived the millennia. In a modern world filled with equally modern technology that can capture events, analyze footage, and find you infinite sources of information, this wonder for the mysteries of the world that used to fill the hearts of our ancestors is fundamentally gone. Stabbed, with the knife pushed harder by a societal expectation that storytelling such as this is perhaps absurd, and may be pushed even harder by the reality of modern work lives and the mental state it produces. How could a new folk story or mythology be organically produced in the modern age so that our descendants may inherit it? Perhaps, for the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, it cannot really be done. And yet, maybe I'm being too hasty. The very premise of my concern that mythology requires anonymity, collective authorship, and genuine belief may itself be a modern bias. We look back at the myths of ancient Greece or the folktales of medieval Europe with a kind of reverence, precisely because time has laundered them. We have forgotten the individuals who first gave shape to these stories. Anonymity, in many cases, was not a feature of mythology. It was simply what happened to authorship after enough centuries had passed. Which makes me wonder, are we perhaps living inside a mythology we simply cannot see yet? Consider for a moment the internet. It is easy to dismiss it as the antithesis of everything mythological. It is commercial, ironic, and relentlessly self-aware. But beneath all of that, something genuinely strange has been happening. I mean, figures like Slenderman emerged from nothing, a simple image on a single forum post, and within years has been elaborated, contradicted, expanded, and even ritualized by thousands of anonymous contributors across the globe. No single person owns him now. He's been adapted into films, games, and everything in between. He has, in the truest sense, escaped his creator and entered popular culture. The mechanism is not so different from the oral tradition of a medieval village. The fire around which we sit has simply changed shape. The SCP Foundation or even Skinwalker and cryptid stories on TikTok find their source in something innately human. Now, the question of belief is more complicated, but perhaps also more interesting. It is true that we are less superstitious in the classical sense, but humanity's appetite for the unknown has never actually diminished. It has only migrated. We no longer fear lake spirits, but we fear what might be in the ocean's deepest trenches, what might be looking back at us from distant galaxies, or what might already be living among us undetected. The shapes of our fears have modernized, but the fear itself has not. And what about crazy conspiracy theories? Whether it be ghost ships, hauntings, the Yeti, Bigfoot, or Nessie the Loch Ness Monster, people keep chasing, keep adding to the legend, and creating stories. The difference is that a very large part of the population either treats them as insanity or just very unseriously, or, in the case of some of the examples from before, simply as entertainment. And so perhaps mythology is not dead, or not completely at least. Perhaps it is something unrecognizable to us now, but which future generations, sitting in whatever version of warmth and company they have, will look back on and call by a grander name. By gradually forgetting us, something ancient will resume and get a life of its own. Tolkien himself believed that humans were sub-creators, that the impulse to make worlds and fill them with meaning was not an accident of culture, but something closer to a fundamental truth about what we are. If he was right, then no amount of modernity, no volume of scientific explanation, and no density of working hours can fully extinguish it. But it is important to recognize all of the changes that have been made. Human instinct for stories will always remain, but it is also true that the last 2 or 3 centuries of human existence, and especially the last 80 years, are an anomaly. This amount of information, this type of work-life balance and family relations, this type of loneliness and mental anguish on such a large scale. It seems to me that somehow things are inherently different, and that modernity, with all of its shininess, is trying to kill something ancient. My instinct says that something has truly changed, that modernity has killed humanity's tradition of creating widespread folk stories and mythologies for future generations to study and enjoy. But at the same time, I choose to remain hopeful. Human nature, after all, can only be overwritten with great difficulty. If you'd like to support the channel and not miss out on future videos, please consider subscribing. You can also click the link on the right to become a channel member and get early access to all of my content.